I have watched the Supergirl film early. The embargo has finally lifted. Here are my overall thoughts on the film. This is my full review, and this is one of those films where it's going to be very hard to go into without talking about spoilers, but don't worry, this will be completely spoiler free. But, I'm just going to have to pick my words wisely because this one's one of them harder ones to delve into without spoilers. But the biggest complaint I've been seeing online ever since I've watched the film was that those who have read the source material, Woman of Tomorrow, which is what this film is adapted from, it's an adaptation of the Woman of Tomorrow comics, and from what I can see, those who've read the comics ended up being extremely disappointed from the film, and those who haven't seem to have enjoyed the film. Now, I haven't read the comics, so I am one of those that have enjoyed the film, and I guess I could kind of have a different point of view as being someone that is familiar with what happens in the comics, but I haven't read the comic entirely. But I had a lot of fun in this film. I quite enjoyed it. For the most part, it was visually stunning, although there were some issues, which I will get into when I talk about the bad stuff in the film. For now, we're just going to be focusing on the good stuff. But yeah, it's an action-packed space adventure, and the best way I could describe this is that it's a combination of Guardians of the Galaxy, Star Wars, and Mad Max, some of which it draws some really great elements from and adds to the overall world building and the overall film. Other aspects I just thought was a lot of copy-paste. I was like, can they even do that? But yeah, it is what it is, but that is the kind of feel I had from this film. Like I said, going into the good stuff first, obviously this film is adapted from the Woman of Tomorrow comic, so it follows, again, Kara is a darker character to Clark anyways, and you do see why they're different, as this film follows the tragic story of Kara experiencing her planet falling, and you see how that affects her as a character and how that experience shows her as different to Superman, because obviously Clark got sent to Earth when he was a baby, but Kara had a completely different experience, and you do really see how that affects her character, and I thought they did that really well. Millie Alcock is absolutely perfect as Supergirl. Genuinely amazing casting, absolutely phenomenal. She's able to capture this grieving character so well, and even when she's going around planets, she's drinking herself up, being in the red sun, and that whole character journey Kara goes through, Millie Alcock has done an amazing job in capturing it. And the main driving force, obviously, once again from the Woman of Tomorrow comics, is the fact that, Krypto gets hurt and Kara is on this revenge plot, if you will. Now, yeah, obviously over here, we've seen this in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler. Krem does poison Krypto, so because of that, Krypto's about to die, and he has 72 hours to live. So Kara is trying to do everything she possibly can to get that antidote which Krem has within those 72 hours. So that's what essentially kicks off the plot. And obviously you do have Ruthie's side story as well, and she is involved in the film quite a bit. But yeah, I like the dynamic between Kara and Krypto over here, and how it's so different to Clark and Krypto that we saw in Superman, and we get to see why and how Kara connects to Krypto on a much more personal level, and I did really like that. Now, the flashback scenes in Krypton was probably some of my favorites. Not only does it add more to the overall DCU, you get a better idea on what the House of L and the Kryptonians are like. Yeah, we get to see the tragic moment happening from Kara's point of view. So Supergirl experiences this all. And like I said, you get to see how that shapes her character. And I do really like the characters that played the Zor-Els. So especially Kara's dad, who, when speaking a completely different language that doesn't even exist, he adds a lot of emotional weight. Although he don't understand anything, obviously there are subtitles, but you feel what he's saying, and I thought that was just very well acted. And Millie Alcock, especially during emotional scenes, oh my god, she was absolutely brilliant. Obviously, we get to see David Cornswell as Superman in this film as well. I'm not gonna go into to what extent, but anytime this guy's on screen, man, there's just a big, massive smile on my face, and it just shows how much of a perfect casting David Cornswell is. It just makes me really, really happy. And I cannot wait to see both of them interact more in Man of Tomorrow. Jason Momoa as Lobo. Oh my freaking days. He was born for this. Jason Momoa was absolutely incredible. He's so much fun. In my opinion, was the MVP of this film. Now, those are all of the good stuff of the film. And now going into the bad stuff, and let me just say there's a lot of issues about this film. The film just felt unfinished. Like, there's a lot of weird cuts. There's some unfinished CGI, or I felt like there was some unfinished CGI. So it does kind of take you off a little bit. It was very weirdly edited. And there are some scenes in this film which I do wish they went into more detail, because I did feel like it would be a bit more crucial. Now, I'm not going to get into spoilers, but primarily I do wish there was a bit more of Superman and Supergirl and that dynamic, especially after what we see in the scene that they released online when Kara and Clark meet for the first time. I felt like we needed to have a bit more from that, which they didn't really delve into, which I was quite disappointed about. And there was another scene regarding Krypton as well, which I do wish we got a little bit more of, but it is what it is. But this just felt like a simple story. Like, I didn't really feel like there was anything intense or just massively climactic. Yeah, the villain Krem has done some terrible stuff in this film, and there's some elements, like big elements, they steal from Mad Max. But I don't know, I just didn't feel like there was anything all that intense, all that big, that makes it for like that, like, you know, just adds to that final act. I don't know, it just felt very simple and just felt like a safe way to go about a film, in my opinion. Now, they do add some new lore, and some of it is interesting, and, you know, they are able to make it work with what they did, mostly to do with, like, the Kryptonians. That's all I'll say. Now, what really annoyed me the most about this film was there's a lot of terrible dialogue. Like, I don't know how to best describe it. It felt like I was watching like a Marvel Disney Plus show. Like, the dialogue is so terrible, man. Like, there's a lot of very cringe dialogue there. And the villain is absolutely terrible as well. I did not really like Krem as a villain. I didn't think he was all that special. He's very forgettable. So in that aspect, I think Supergirl completely failed in terms of its, you know, dialogue, its forced humor, and also the villain. Now, obviously, the humor aside, Jason Momoa's humor is just completely different. You won't stop laughing with him, but in other places, it just feels a bit off, and I don't know how to feel about it. But yeah, then the character of Ruthie as well. Now, the actress played her very well, but I don't know, I just wasn't a fan of this character. I found the character quite annoying. Maybe that's how she's supposed to be in the comics. I'm not entirely sure. But again, I wasn't a fan of the character herself. And there was a specific scene that I felt like was a massive plot hole in the film. Primarily when it's an action sequence that happens when Kara is under Red Sun, which I didn't really understand how she was able to overcome that fight, which I found a little bit weird. But yeah, those are the bad things I have. But overall, I thought the film was still pretty good. I still do think it was another hit for the DCU. I genuinely did really like it. Now, out of 10, I'll probably give it like a 6 or 7 out of 10. I will definitely say it's definitely a must-watch film, but it's no way near close to how good Superman was, in my opinion.